Gene Benson was born in Arcadia, Nebraska. His family moved to Laramie when Gene was 2 years old. He called Wyoming home until his passing October 1st, 2004. Gene married his high school sweetheart, Sharon Deti, in June of 1950. The couple was blessed with 6 daughters: Donna, Mary, Pam, Sue, Emily, and Heather. Gene began his illustrious career in Wyoming broadcasting in 1958 with a morning sports show at KOWB and then moved to KLME. The show ran for 12 years. In 1962, John Davis and Chuck Bell approached Gene for help. The broadcaster KOWB had hired for football play-by-play coverage of Laramie High decided traveling to Cody for a high school football game was more than he had bargained for. Undaunted by the long drive, Gene accepted the challenge and a future broadcaster was born. His broadcasting career spanned more than 32 years. He covered sports for Laramie High School, University Prep, University of Wyoming, Air Force Academy, and Colorado State University. He covered football, basketball, and baseball, and was the only broadcaster to announce Wyoming wrestling. Being named Wyoming Sportscaster of the Year 7 times during his career rewarded his enthusiasm for sportscasting. Imagine the personal sacrifice and devotion it takes to cover a football game between the UW freshman and the Air Force Academy freshman at the Academy in Colorado Springs on a Friday afternoon. He then made the drive home to Laramie to do play-by-play for Laramie High School football that same evening. At the end of that game, Gene headed 415 miles through the night to Provo, Utah to broadcast the UW football game with BYU on Saturday afternoon and headed back to Laramie after the game. That was 1,150 miles in 3 days by car for 8 hours of Cowboy freshman and varsity football and 2 hours of Laramie High coverage. It was a common occurrence for Gene. His reward for these heroic travels was being able to do something he truly loved. In 1968, he purchased an existing radio network based in Cheyenne to fulfill his dream of originating play-by-play broadcasts of Cowboy athletic events. He called his stations the WYO Sports Network. The network began with a modest 9 stations and grew to 23 stations, one of the largest Wyoming listening audiences ever. When Gene began broadcasting at the Air Force Academy, he moved the control board into his home. Gene was lucky enough to recruit family to run the boards. His wife Sharon and daughter Sue primarily shared the duties. Some highlights from Gene's broadcasting career include providing play-by-play for 7 bowl games and 9 NIT basketball games. He traveled as far as Japan for the Mirage Bowl. Gene was on hand to air John Deti Sr.'s 34-game winning streak at Laramie High. Some famous sports figures highlighted his career, including Jim Kick, Conrad Dobler, Charles Bradley, and Bill Garnett. He was also on the air for the duel of the Detis several times, when young John Jr. went up against his father, John Sr., in the Wyoming High School Football State Championship when Laramie High played Sheridan High. Gene announced for Bill Ewing's home runs at Cowboy Field and Ev Lance's pins in Half Acre Gym. An accomplished businessman, Gene was also instrumental in creating a more professional quality game day football and basketball program. He did this by selling advertising to generate funding for the project. The programs featured advertising from businesses in 14 different Wyoming communities. Gene always faced challenges with steadfast determination. One of the most difficult challenges was making sure he had phone lines ready and working for game day. Anyone who had been in the business knew it was somewhat of a hit-and-miss situation. Necessity being the mother of invention, so in 1968, Gene developed and created a cooperative telephone line agreement with all Western Athletic Conference schools. He acted as a facilitator to ensure that all necessary agreements and equipment were in place to originate live broadcasts of UW football and basketball, both on the road and in Laramie. Gino's passion for sports reached farther than just his radio broadcasting. He was a W Club Life member, and member of the UW Alumni Association for 29 years. He introduced replay of the UW football games to the Green River and Rock Springs area on Monday nights following game day for 11 years. This was a 400-mile round trip every week. Gene was one of the driving forces of the Wyoming chapter of the National Football Foundation by recruiting new memberships. The Gene Benson Agency sponsored and presented the Polk Basketball MVP Award for 43 years. The agency will continue this tradition. Gene was one of the founding board members of the Laramie Quarterback Club and was president of the club at the time of his death. His love for UW sports earned him a personalized chair in UW's press box. Gino Benson, will always be a true ambassador for Wyoming sports.
Hey, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Wyoming Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame is proud to induct Gene Benson.